Welcome. Very good evening to everyone. I welcome you to all to this amazing learning session that we conduct on every Thursdays with different topics. My name is Preeti. I'm one of the sales specialists at ProTouch. Before we start, let me give you a quick overview about us. ProTouch is a certification institute which provide upskilling courses to the professionals like HR generalists, HR analytics advanced certification, post trainer to deliver post trainings, business analytics for managers certification, corporate trainer and facilitator trainer certification, certified practitioner coach and emotional intelligence trainer and coach certification. We also provide customized programs. So all the programs are accredited by the topmost bodies like ICF, SHRM, HRCI, CPD, and IBEC. I'm so glad to see many existing students, team members, and aspiring students of ProTouch who have joined this amazing learning session today evening. I would like to know from each and every audience your location and the temperature of your city. However, I am from Gurgaon, so and the temperature is 14 degrees Celsius here. May I know how are your locations and the temperature that you are, having as of now in your respective cities? You can please put your, your city in the chat box. Mr. Chamandeep has mentioned Pinjore near Chandigarh, 7 degree, nice. Richa has mentioned, good evening, ma'am. Thank you. Ahmedabad, 25 degrees Celsius, Gurgaon feeling. So it has mentioned 12 degrees, nice. Delhi, 12 degree. Vadodara, Gujarat, 25. Balaghat, MP, great. So nice to see you, everyone. Jyoti has mentioned Kanpur with 10 degrees Celsius. Umang has mentioned, I am from Delhi, same experience here in Delhi, 13 to 14 degrees Celsius. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your locations. Now let's begin our learning session with Rahul sir, our guest speaker of today evening. I would like to take a moment to introduce you all with our today's guest speaker, Mr. Rahul Sethi. Rahul sir is an experienced corporate trainer, leadership coach, and Marshall Goldsmith certified executive coach. He comes with an immense experience of more than 25 years in heading the business, sales, marketing, and product management. He is the director as well as the CEO of ProTouch Professional Training. It's our honor to have sir today evening. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Priti, and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thanks, Priti, for such a nice uh, start with temperature varying. As some of the temperature is, I'm an analytics person, so seen in minus. So Bangalore reads to me as minus 27 degrees. I'm sure it is hyphen and not minus. But yes, the weather is good across the country these days. Very pleasant and cold in some areas. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in on this amazing session and an amazing topic. Where the topic for today is role of analytics in compensation and benefits. This is one question I get asked many a times, saying, how do we decide someone's salary? And what is the right way of giving increments and deciding salary? What is the right way and how organizations are doing it? So what I'm going to do today over the next 1 hour, I am going to share with you certain best practices and insights that organizations around the world are using. So we cannot cover all best practices, but I will give you most common approach that all matured organizations are taking. It may not be applicable to a very young organization, but most of the matured organizations, what strategies and approach they are using to compensations and benefits is what we are going to look at it today. But before that, I have a quick question. How many of you are attending any sessions from ProTouch for the first time? You just write first in the chat box if you are attending any session from ProTouch for the first time. You're not our students and attending sessions for the first time. So Darshan is attending for the first time. Oh, quite a few. That's good. Brilliant. Many of you are attending for the first time, and a very warm welcome to ProTouch and our sessions. And I hope to see you in our upcoming sessions as well. So let's straight dive in. How many of you have this question that how organization decide salaries of their employees? How do they decide salary for a particular role? How many of just say yes in the chat box or me in the chat box if you have this question in your mind? Yeah. All right. So many of us has this question, right? How organization actually decide on compensations and benefits. So let's dive in and see how much can we cover today. I will try to cover as much as possible. Wherever you have question, either you can raise hand. There is a hand raise button on your screen, or you can put your questions in the chat box, right? However, I will pause in between to take your reflections and comments. Is my screen visible? All right, it's visible now. Yeah. So we are going to talk about role of HR analytics in compensation and benefits. It's a very specific topic today, which we are talking about role of analytics in compensation and benefit. So friends, let's begin by understanding what is compensation and what are benefits. Who would like to start? What is compensation and what are benefits? What's the difference? You can unmute yourself. You can use the chat box, whichever way you feel comfortable.
Compensation is usually in monetary terms, and benefits could be even perks.
Very good. So compensations are generally monetary, and benefits can be monetary or non-monetary. Very good. Uh, what anyone else would like to contribute?
Compensation refers to the fixed salary that is paid for the job that you're undertaking.
Right. And benefits?
Whereas benefits are the additional perks or perquisites that we refer to that are given to an employee as part of being the organization.
Great. Umang is saying compensation is pay that we are getting against our service. Benefits are additional allowances which company provides to its employees. Yeah, so most of you are correct. Now, why organization actually divide what is called as total rewards into compensations and benefits? Well, first, let's look at some benefits. What are some of the benefits? Compensation, we all understand, it's salary. What are some of the benefits? Give me some examples.
Special allowances, HRA.
Housing, car lease, very good. Meals. Not leave policy, that's a policy. Medical insurance, yes. Medical insurance, bonus, Sodexo. Very good. So the incentives, yeah, these are some of the benefits that organization offer. Why there is a need to divide the overall reward into compensation and benefits? Why it just can't be compensation?
Some of the benefits have tax rebates.
Very good. So there could be some tax implications, right? Some benefits are taxable, some benefits are uh, exempted from tax. So one of the reason organizations split into compensation and benefits, it could be tax. Is what else? To retain employees, Abhishek is saying that's a good way to look at it. Abhishek, would you like to talk more about it? How benefit can help retain employees?
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening.
Actually, a company offers their employees for extra benefit in terms of bonus or any other to retain them. Actually, if they quit their service uh, from their company, so maybe a employee manpower loss for that company. So they offer other like benefit so that to retain them.
Very good. Absolutely right. So there could be certain benefits that can act as a great retention tool for the organization. Say, for example, housing, car lease. These are some of the great benefits that organization may offer, which are great benefits to retain employees. What are the other reasons organization uh, give benefits? What are other key advantages of benefits? One is tax, other is retention. What else? Motivation. So Anurupa is saying motivation factor. Anurupa, would you like to talk more about? Anurupa say.
Hi, Rahul. So, being in HR, we have seen that, when we provide benefits, it's benefits, when we give rewards, awards, or some kind of any kind of perk, small or big, whatever. It make, employees motivated for work. So I feel so.
Absolutely. So many a times benefits are used as a element to motivate and say for example, it can show that organization is caring. Organization can demonstrate that their care, well-being for the employees through these benefits. And many a times it can also have a much higher perceived value, which means the way employee look at the benefit, the value of it is much higher than what actually the organization is spending, right? So benefits many a times are also cost effective when it comes to the return in terms of the perceived value. So these are certain advantages that organization enjoy, both organization and employee enjoy in terms of a very structured compensation and benefit, right? Now we all understand now that it's important to have a right design of our compensation and benefit. What are some of the benefits of a great design when it comes to compensation and benefit? And in short form, it is also called as comp and ben. Many large organizations have a separate department or a sub-function within HR, which is called as comp and ben, headed by special comp and ben specialists, and they put a lot of focus in the way they are designing total rewards. So what are some of the benefits of a great designing of a compensation and benefit? Yeah. So here are some of the key benefits, friends. It can help us attract great talent, because if the design of compensation and benefit is right, it helps in attracting talent, it helps in retaining talent. We talked about it. Rupa also talked about it helps in motivating. And if employees are motivated, they are more productive. It helps employee morale and satisfaction. It can also support recruitment efforts. How a great complement design can support recruitment efforts, which means it can help other HR functions or sub functions. Any examples?
In recruitment, sir, I think incentive. This is the efforts for the recruitment, basically.
So when you're talking, very good, Sakshi, when you're talking to prospective employees, sometimes a great complement design itself can help you close a candidate faster or choose your organization over other organizations. It increases employee loyalty and commitment, improved well-being of the employees. It gives you clear competitive edge, if designed properly. And last but not the least, it helps us have a positive employer brand. Yeah. Kushal is saying more benefits and a better compensation structure win candidates' trust. Absolutely. It significantly helps increase candidate trust or the prospective employees' trust. And therefore, many organizations put immense focus in getting their complement design right. And they use a lot of analytics to get this design right. Now let us look at, are you with me so far? Just say yes in the chat box if you're understanding what I'm explaining. Just put yes in the chat box if it is clear to you. All right, great, thank you. Now let us look at what is the role of analytics in compensation and benefits. Now, and a lot of people ask me this. It broad, and there are many areas it impacts. It significantly impacts in two areas. First, setting total rewards, and second, revising total rewards. And these are the two questions that generally come to our mind. How organizations decide how much salary should be paid for a particular role, and how do they decide how much should be the revision in terms of compensation. Now let us start with first understanding how do organizations set particular reward or a salary or a compensation for a particular role. Any thoughts? How organizations set? What do you think? What are some of the variables at play? Market info. Divya is saying market info. All right. What else? Depending on the experience. So yeah, so depending on the experience, salary is decided. Yeah, so cost to company, Kush is saying. So that's my question is, how do they decide cost to company? How much, what should be the right cost for this role? Yeah, so budget, how do they decide budget? One factor is demand. People are saying skills, depending on the candidate last package. So that is negotiation. But how do they decide how much should we spend on a role? So don't get confused. And I want your full attention, friends. Don't get confused in what salary they are paying to a particular candidate who has applied, or when they're deciding the budget. Now, what we are deciding is how organization decide what should be paid to a particular role, not to a particular candidate. To the candidate, they may pay more or less than what they have decided. But how they decide what is the right salary for a particular role? Based on business goal, ROI, okay, on the basis of business plan. Okay. As a company, a particular role, responsibility, expected output. But yeah, suppose the output is 1 crore rupees. So how do we decide the salary?
Benchmarking for the role in the market.
Very good. So one of the exercise that organization follow is called as market benchmarking. Now, how organization do a particular market benchmark? So let us now look at how market benchmarking or how setting total rewards is actually done. Yeah. So I'm going to, and how they are analyzed and how it is performed. I will take you to the step-by-step process on setting total rewards. And when we say total rewards, it is basically a combination of compensations and direct benefit which can be converted into monetary terms, and that is called as total rewards. Let's look at it, which is setting total rewards. Now, this is a 4-step process. Now, let me walk you through each of these steps one by one. The first step, friend, is defining role information. Now, when we say defining role information, what it includes? What is the experience required for this particular role? What are the responsibilities this individual is expected to have? What are the qualification or any specific qualification or certification the organization is looking for? And the classical KSA, what are the knowledge, skills, and attributes that is required to perform this role effectively, which is also called as competencies. So experience, responsibilities, qualifications, and competencies required for a particular role. So that's the first step that is done. Is this clear, friends? Step number 1. What's the step 1? Defining role information. And what do we have to define? Experience, responsibilities, qualification, and competencies. Once we have done it, we move to selecting benchmarking grid. Now, we talked about we have to do market benchmarking. Now, against whom we should benchmark? Suppose we are deciding that this is a particular role and we want to do a benchmark. We will benchmark against whom? So this is
Targeting the
competitors. Okay, very good. Who else?
targeting
Companies that are in the
similar
same similar industry or similar job profile.
Companies who are in the same industry or similar industry, okay, and the same job profile or a similar job profile. So in analytics language, we never call it same, we call it similar, because exactly same is very difficult to find. We generally use the word similar. So similar industries or similar roles. What else? Think logically as a HR. And this is where, if you want to be good in HR analytics, your domain knowledge plays an important role. Now, now you think from a talent acquisition or retention point of view, whom would you like to benchmark against?
mainly the competitors.
Competitors. What else? When you look for candidate, when you go and acquire candidate, you only go and acquire from competitors?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Not only, no, also we will get the knowledge or skill.
Yeah.
Or
So
as per the
yeah.
industry standard.
Yeah. So that's my question is, when we say we have to benchmark this role, what salary we should give against the industry or against competitor, so or against market. So one of the obvious variable is look at your competitor, what salaries they are offering for a similar role. Where else you will go and find?
Experience, sir.
No, experience is for a particular, when the candidate comes and then you look at the experience. Business partners, no. Think. When you go and find candidates, you only go to competitor.
Market analysis.
That's what my question is. How do you do market analysis?
Okay.
When you do market analysis, where will you go and do market analysis? One is with your competitors. Who else? Let's look at it. You look at three important places in the form of a grid when you do market benchmarking. First, similar job in the same industry. That's obvious, which is nothing but competitor, what competitors are offering. Similar jobs in other industry, where either you can get candidates from or you may lose candidate employees to. Because what are the similar jobs in other industry from where either you can get candidates or you lose your employees to that industry? Third, other jobs in same or other industries, which means this is not a similar job, but it's another job which has exactly the same skills, qualification, experience, and competencies that are required for that particular job. Now, those are also the jobs from where you may try to attract talent or you may lose your employees to, right? So whenever you are doing benchmarking, the fundamental rule that is applied is where will you go and get talent from, or where you could possibly lose your talent to. And that should be considered as part of the benchmarking grid. Now, when we say benchmarking grid, what do we mean? We basically mean that when we are looking for other organization and their salaries, how many we should consider from there. Suppose I have to pick up 10 companies. How many companies I should pick up from who have similar jobs in the same industry, similar jobs in different industry, or different jobs in same or different industry? Suppose I want to survey 100 people. Out of 100 people, I may decide, and that is up to you to define, and that's the reason it is called as grid. It is up to you to define that. Suppose you may say, I will have 60% weightage. If I'm surveying 100 people, I want 60% to be doing the similar jobs and in the same industry. But sometimes it may not be possible. Your industry may have only one or two or three companies, right? So the competition is less possible. You may say, I want to give 20% weightage to people who are doing similar job, but they are not from our industry, but they're from different industry. Or you may say, I will also give 20% weightage to people who are doing different jobs in different industry. They're not doing a similar job, but those jobs need exactly the same or very close to the same skills, knowledge, experience, competencies, qualification that we are looking for. So that is where you also can attract talent or lose your talent. Is this clear, friends, still here? This is called as Bearkit benchmarking grid. If you are going and doing benchmarking, what ratio you would like to give to which level? Just say yes in the chat box if it is clear to here. Yeah, so the step one is defining the role. Second step is select the right benchmarking grid. Now, once the benchmarking grid is ready, friends, we move to the third step. And what's the third step on your screen? Gathering and normalizing information. Now, let's first look at gathering information. Now, how do you gather information? How do you get their salaries? This can be done through surveys. There are a lot of consulting firms who are who take these assignments of benchmarking activities, and all large organizations across industry get some consulting firm to get this uh, benchmarking done. And then in many countries, there are a lot of government data that is available in terms of compensation of various industries and various roles. Now, gathering information is clear. Now, after the information is gathered, it is also required to be normalized. Now, what do you mean by normalizing the information? Now, normalizing information means that how do you make this information comparable? Because this information may not be comparable. Why it may not be comparable? For example, there is a role that is in, say, a small town in UP or Madhya Pradesh, and the same role is available in Mumbai. Now, the salaries between these two cities are comparable for the same role. No, they're not comparable. So, which city will be paying more for the same role?
Mumbai,
Why? Why Mumbai would be paying more?
because the standard of living is high comparison.
Absolutely, because the cost of living is high, the competition is more, so on and so forth. So the salaries in Mumbai will generally be higher than other cities, and therefore, when we compare, when we gather information, this information is also normalized for uh, things like location, things like complexity, and other parameters, so that the information becomes comparable. Some organization may have very high fixed, some may have a very high variable. Now, when it comes to total reward, it needs to be normalized so that it can be compared, right? So this is the step number 3, which is gathering and normalizing the information. Now, once this is done, friends, we move to the fourth step, which is the final step, and how salaries or compensation or total rewards are decided is by understanding the current and targeted percentile. Now, friends, let us understand what is percentile. Percentile is, suppose you have 100 records. Suppose you have 100 records, you have got information for 100 people working in the similar jobs, or you have compared 100 companies or 100 employees from different industries, and you have made a list. Now, let's look at what is percentile, what is current percentile, and what is target percentile. Now, percentile basically means that how many people are behind you. How many people are behind you? Let me take an example. Suppose I tell you that you are 90th percentile. What do you mean? Your organization's compensation is at 90th percentile. What do you mean by this? Which basically means that if there are 100 companies or 100 jobs in the market, there are 90 jobs which are below my salary, which means I am amongst how many top companies or top jobs in the same role? I am amongst the top 10. So when I say 90th percentile, which means I am amongst the top 10. If I say you 80th percentile, what does it mean? I am amongst the top 20. Now, this is where organizations decide, and let me just share my screen once again. This is how they list down various organizations and jobs at different levels and see what is the compensation for that role coming in each organization that has been analyzed. And therefore, if there are 100 organizations, where do we stand in terms of the compensation as ranked in the ascending or descending order? And that is where the percentile is decided. Now, one is the current percentile. Now, how is current percentile decided? If I have 10 people doing that job, what is my median? If I rank them from 1 to 10, whosoever is in the middle is considered as a median in terms of the salary. Now, where do we stand today and where we would want to stand? Every organization makes this choice. For every role, they make a choice that where we would like to be ranked. We would want to be amongst the top 10, we want to be amongst top 20, or we want to be amongst the bottom 20, right? That is how organization decide, and this is where the setting of total reward exercise is done. Let me revise once again all the 4 steps on how the compensation is set, how the compensation is decided for any particular role. What's the first step? Define the role. What experience, responsibility, qualification, competency is required. Step 2, select the benchmarking grid. How many people you want to survey from the same industry? How many people you want to survey doing the similar job in different industry? And how many people you want to survey who are doing different jobs in different industry? Yeah. And what ratio you want to give? Then you gather information and normalize information. Normalize information for location, experience, etc. And then final step, once the information is gathered, we decide what is the current percentile and what is my target percentile, what I want to be at. This also gives organization a lot of confidence that where their salaries are, and many organizations also share this information with their employees. Now, if organization is in the 90th percentile, is it a good point to share with the employees that we want to be in the 90th percentile?
Yes.
What benefit it will give to the organization?
High compensation.
Yeah. What's the benefit?
It boosts your value in the market as a as a very high, payer in the market.
Absolutely. And also employees feel assured that it is a very structured scientific exercise done. And yes, there could be some people who are above me. There could be some people who could be below me in terms of salary in the market. But I am assured that my salary is probably amongst the my salary is possibly amongst the top 10% salary getters in the market. Yeah, it helps in staying motivated and improve productivity, as Umang is very rightly saying in the chat box. Yeah. Let me just pause here and see if how the setup of compensation is done to everyone before we move to how the compensation revision is done. Is everyone clear on how the compensation setting is done? Or how the total reward setting is done? Any questions? Any questions on this point before we move to how the compensation revisions are done? Yes, I can take few questions at this stage before we move ahead.
So,
Yes.
so could you just explain once that benchmarking part and percentile part, sir?
Yes. Let me show one more chart. Is this chart visible to you on your screen? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Now let us only focus on the middle part. Suppose we are hiring for this position. Now this is how the market benchmarking report actually comes out. It will say that suppose there are 100 people that are surveyed in the market, which is a combination of what salaries they are getting as a combination of people in the same industry, people from different industry doing the similar job, or people from different industry or the same industry doing a different job, but with the same competencies and qualifications required. Now, once this is done, now if I am saying that I want to be in 90th percentile, where do you think my cutting line will be? Where will my boundary line will be? On the towards the right of this curve or towards the left of this curve?
Towards the right.
Towards the right. You know, we may say that I want to place my salary here. You know, this is the salary that I will have to give because I want to be amongst the top 10% job salary payers in the market. And this is where you decide at what percentile. Suppose we say I want to be amongst the top 20, which means your median salary will cut somewhere here because you want to be amongst the top 20% payers in the market. This is how the percentile cuts are done. You know, if the salaries of all 100 are plotted here, this is how the market benchmarking is done. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other question on setting compensation before we move to revising compensation? Great. So now, friends, let's look at how compensations are revised. What are the factors is considered when we have to revise compensation?
Budget of the organization.
Budget of the organization, how much increment we want to give at overall level. Very good. What else? Divya is saying market adjustment. Divya, would you like to talk more about what do you mean by market adjustment?
So, for example, maybe the statutory things that are changing, or maybe the demand in that particular market that is changing. So, accordingly, the role has to be paid. The compensation has to be set according to that.
Very good. So, suppose that job has all of a sudden become high in demand in the market. So, you have to adjust compensation, which is market adjustment. That's a valid point. Okay. Performance of the employee, Noor is saying, which is absolutely right. You have to also look at how the employee has performed. Very good. Performance review, Divya is also saying. What else? How compensations are how compensation change is decided. So we have few points. One is market adjustment, revenue, company's budget, how much they want to increase, company turnover. Now let us look at what is a step-by-step approach all the matured organizations are adapting. They may adapt few or all the points, but these are some of the international best practices. Let's have a look at step-by-step approach of revising total rewards. Step 1. What is your current percentile and what is your target percent? So they always start with this point. Let's read the market once again and see what percentile we are at right now and would we like to change this percentile. Okay, say for example, organization may say that currently we are at 85. This year, let us move to 90. Or they may say we are at 90, we can drop to 80, no problem. So this is what the adjustment in terms of the, and someone also said market adjustment. This is where the market adjustments are also done, saying what is my current percentile and what is my target percentile. And therefore, what should be my overall increment. Many organizations also look at this market benchmarking in terms of percentile also with respect to the market benchmark, saying if there are 100 companies in the market, how much increment each organization is planning to give this year. And this is done through a lot of consulting firms talking to various HR heads and CEOs of different countries that what is your planning? What are you tentatively planning to give? And that is where organizations are also saying that this year our increment will be amongst the top 10% increments in the market. You know, if you're giving 10% increase, we will be amongst the top 10% or top 20%. This is how the percentiles are decided, even for salary increase at an organization. Is it clear to step number 1, which is again the market benchmark? Second step is differentiation. Now, this is where organization, or now this point that I'm explaining you, many of you may have objection, but this is the reality, and this is, I would say, it's a very matured way of looking at situations. Now, what is differentiation? Now, this is where organization, if overall we are planning to give 10% increment, how much increment we will give basis performance level, which means if there is 4 levels of performance in the organization, and let me just call it for simplicity P1, P2, P3, P4, which means P1 is the lowest or the highest performance, or P4 is the lowest or highest performance, and you rank it. That if someone is P4, which means the peak performer, that person should get say 20%, and someone is a low performer at P1 should get only 5%. So organization may decide say 5, 10, 15, 20 for P1, P2, P3, P4 at an average level. Is performance-based differentiation fair? Is it clear to everyone? Is it fair to have a performance-based differentiation? Right? Now, organizations, can I have some reaction in the chat box? Yeah, great. So we need to have a performance-based differentiation. Once we have this, there are some more differentiations organization keep. There is a differentiation for role sensitivity. What is role sensitivity?
How critical the role is to the company?
That is the third point, role criticality. How critical the role is role criticality. And many organizations for critical roles have a higher percentage increment kept than the non-critical role. Now, it can be debated that every role is critical from an HR point of view, but every organization generally keep and have a list of critical roles. Now, what is role sensitivity? Role sensitivity is about sensitivity of losing an employee or in a particular roles. So some roles are high in demand. Okay? Now it may not be critical role, but it is high in demand. So you may lose the employee or you may find it difficult to get the employee. So depending on the sensitivity and criticality also, the compensation percentages are differentiated as a second step. So first step is deciding the percentile. Second step is differentiation. Differentiation in terms of performance, differentiation in terms of sensitivity, differentiation in terms of criticality. Some organizations also do sensitivity analysis at an employee level, which employees are more sensitive to attrition than the others, but very rarely they will have a compensation adjustment attached to it. But compensation attachment at an overall level is done for sensitivity and criticality along with performance. Is the differentiation point clear to everyone? Just put yes in the chat box.
Sir, I'm not very clear between the role sensitivity and role criticality. I'm
Okay.
a little
Yes,
confused.
the criticality part, can you just repeat?
Yeah. So let me put it this way. Suppose I have a role. I'm just giving a simple example. Suppose I have a role of someone who is managing robotics in my company. Okay. Now, robotics could be very critical to me as an organization. Okay. Although it may not have too much demand in the market. So if it has too much demand in the market and therefore there is a sensitivity that I may lose an employee because there are a lot of organizations trying to attract talent with that skills. Now, if there is lot of demand and less supply, it is called as sensitivity. Is this clear? So demand supply ratio, what is in demand and what is the supply is sensitivity. Criticality, on the other hand, is how critical that role is for this organization, for my organization. That is criticality. Now, there could be a situation that the critical role is also sensitive, but not necessary. There could be some roles which are critical and some roles which are sensitive. Is it clear to everyone now? The differentiation between sensitivity and criticality? Yeah. Okay. Then we move to the third step, which is called as compa ratio. Right? Now, friends, what is compa ratio? Compa ratio is calculated with, suppose you have 100 employees in a particular role. Suppose I have 100 employees in a particular role. What will be the median? If I rank all their salaries from 1 to 100, the salary of the 50th employee will be called as a median if I rank them in ascending or descending order, which means that's a midpoint salary of that role. Now that is decided as 1. Let me just take to the next slide to explain the compa ratio a little bit. Whatever is the midpoint salary is called as median, and that is defined as 1. So compa ratio, for every employee there is a compa ratio, and the formula for compa ratio is salary of a particular employee divided by the median salary. So the person who is the median will have a compa ratio of 1 because that is the salary divided by the median salary. All the people who are drawing lesser salary than the median salary will have a compa ratio of less than 1. And people who are drawing salary more than the median salary will have a compa ratio of more than 1. Because that's the formula, salary divided by the midpoint. And that is where organization define 4 quadrants, and they're also called as quartiles. Now, these are not analytic quartiles, but it could be adjusted quartiles. So let me explain this once again. Suppose there are 100 employees. 100 employees will be put in 4 quarters. There will be a median point, then there will be some people who will be put in quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4, depending on their salary. Now, this organization can choose at what point they want to cut, whether they want to keep this as below 0.8, this as 0.8 to 1 compa ratio, this could be 1 to 1.2, and this could be more than 1.2. This is one example I'm giving of compa ratio where organization will decide, okay, fine, this is how I will put the employees. Is it clear till here? Now, this is compa ratio. Now, what it has to do with salary? Now, who should, if there is an average 10% increase I can do, who should get more percentage increment and who should get less percentage increment? Which quadrant should get more percentage increment and which quadrant should get
Q4
less
should
percentage?
get more percentage.
Sorry?
Q4.
Q4 should get
more.
More.
Less.
More or less?
Two should get more.
Sorry, can you repeat your question again? I didn't get the question.
Yes. So my question is everyone clear on compa ratio? Compa ratio is nothing but every individual salary divided by the median salary. Okay. Now, what is the objective of organization? To increase this gap or reduce the gap? People drawing salary in the same, people, suppose 100 people are doing the same job. Organization's objective will be to reduce their range or increase their range.
Reduce the gap.
Reduce the gap.
To reduce the gap. Clear? Is that clear? That's a logical thing. Every organization will try to reduce the gap. You know, if suppose there is a job and the salary range is between 1 lakh to 2 lakh, the lowest person is getting 1 lakh, highest person is getting 2 lakh. Will their objective will be to reduce this gap or increase this gap?
Reduce the gap.
Reduce the gap. And that is where they will put all employees into 4 quadrants. So where they will put more percentage and where they will put less percentage in terms of increment.
So more before the median and less after the median.
Absolutely. So people who are getting less, the people who are below median, they will try to give them more and more percentage. And people who are above median, they will try to give slightly lesser percentage. Is it okay till here?
Yes.
Yeah. Is this concept clear? Why they put compa ratios and what is the significance of compa ratio? Once this, okay, Yogeshwari, what do you want to understand once again? So compa ratio is everyone's salary divided by the midpoint. Okay. And then they can decide whether it has to be 0.9, below 0.9, 0.9 to 1, 1 to 1.1, or above 1.1, or any blocks they can put to define employees into 4 quadrants. Once they put in, just give me a second, friends. There's someone calling. Okay, so once it is put, then they can decide, they may say, organization may say, people who are in Q4, if overall 10% increase we have to give, we will give, say, 8% here, 9% here, 11% here, and 12% here on an average. This is where the differentiation basis the compa ratio is decided. Is it clear now? Yogeshwari, is it clear to you now? So people who are below the median salary, organization will try to give them more, and people who are getting more, they will try to give them less, right? So that the gap between their salary is narrowed. So when I say less, it does not mean they will take away their salary. The increment will be less. Yeah. Now coming to the last step of how the revision of total rewards is done, they create a grid like this, in which they put quarters or quadrants, that how many people are in quartile 1, quartile 2, quartile 3, quartile 4, and what is their performance level, P1, P2, P3, P4, where P4 is the highest performance, P1 is the least performance. Now tell me, in this grid, who will get the highest increment? Which box will get the highest increment?
P4.
P4 and which quadrant?
Q4.
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 Q1, Q1, Q1.
P1, Q1.
P4, Q1 will get the highest, right? Because his performance is the best and he is currently paid the lowest.
Yes.
Correct? So the maximum percentage increase will be given to this box. Who will get the least increment?
Q4, P1.
Lowest performance, highest salary. So they will get the
Lowest, least.
yeah, they will get the least increment percentage. And that is where organization will decide a percentage for each of these boxes. How much percentage should go in which box? Basis what is their current performance and what is their current salary. Makes sense? Is it logically correct, friends?
Yes.
Logically the right way of deciding what salary increment should we give, rather than just doing business the feeling. Yeah. And once this is done, last but not the least, guess what? What is the final step? Now they have made the grid. You have decided who should get what salary increase.
Disclosing of the salary with the hike in the percentage.
No, right now we have decided it, but before we disclose, there is one more step that is done in most organization, and all mature organizations follow this step, which is to manage emotions.
Yes.
Whose emotions?
Yeah.
Employees.
No.
Employers not sure.
Because
Employer.
can number tell all the facts?
Sorry.
Numbers, can number tell all the facts? Number may not be able to, or analytics may not be able to give the right context. It will give the right numbers, but it may not give the right context sometimes. And therefore, all matured organizations keep the last step, which is called as manager discretion, which is called as, once everyone's salary is decided, they do something which is called as manager discretion. What is manager discretion? That every manager can adjust salary of their team member slightly, provided that manager has the access to the salary. Some organization keep it, some organization keep it at a certain level. Some organization keep it only the HOD level. HODs are aware of the salaries. Maybe below that, no one is aware of the salaries of each other. Now, whichever is the last point, that is where, yes, Chamandeep is making a very good point, which is special adjustments. So whether you call it special adjustment, many also call it as manager discretion, which is, but whenever any organization is giving a discretion to manager, they consider 2 points. One, they define the range, how much a manager can adjust, and they also define the rules, under what rules they can adjust. There has to be a right reason. So there is a range. Say many organizations say that you can adjust maximum 1% or 2%. And these are the rules under which you can adjust. If you feel that suppose someone has worked very hard and therefore the person could not, but still the person could not perform, but efforts has to be rewarded, you can adjust this. If you believe that the person was unwell for a long period of time, or there was a very important life event that happened, like marriage or death in the family kind of stuff, then you can do that a little bit adjustment and give that grace, or the allowance towards effort or a condition or circumstances. So that is where organization keeps something called as manager discretion. And after that, the final salary increment is done. So these are the 4 steps, friend. First, deciding the target percentile, then differentiation basis, performance, sensitivity, and criticality, defining the compa ratio to get this final grid. And once this grid is ready, you compute the revised compensation and then give it to the manager for final special adjustments or manager discretion. And that is where the final compensation or the revision in the total rewards is done. Let me pause here and now take your questions. First, let me tell you, are you clear on this concept of how analytics is used to decide compensations and benefits, both while setting it and while revising?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Over to your questions. We can spend 5 minutes on questions. Already 8 o'clock.
Sir, do organization, see how other organizations are paying to their employees as well while judging their?
Yeah, that's market benchmarking. Right?
Okay.
That's market benchmarking. Both they do both at the time of setting and revision. Benchmarking is done. That is where the percentile is decided. That when we want to be amongst top what percentage of players in the market.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, Kanchan has a question on the chat box. Could you explain the last one range? Would you like
Kanchan,
to?
I'm not clear on the question. Could you please come on the mic and ask it so that it will be faster?
So
Sir, I
the
do have one
last part
question.
we were defining the range and all that last part. So,
Okay, the manager discretion you're talking?
yes, sir.
Okay. So when it comes to manager discretion, 2 things are decided. What is the range? Say, for example, organization may say manager can adjust maximum 1% to the increment. If employee has got 10% increment, manager can adjust say 1% or 2% up or down. Either it can increase 1% or reduce 1% without changing the total outflow of the company. If I'm say increasing 10,000 rupees in someone's salary, then I have to also reduce 10,000 rupees in someone else's salary. That is where the adjustments are done, right? And they also decide the routes on what basis. What could be the right reasons for this adjustment? Manager cannot say I like this person and hence this adjustment is done. There has to give a proper reason that if this is a reason, it is allowed. If this is a reason, it is not allowed, right? So that is defining the range and defining the rules.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes, please.
Sir, assume that last year we have taken one supervisor and as per the scale government given, we have fixed the salary. Okay. Next year, when the appraiser will come, during that time, we have appointed one more person, okay, for the same level. And that person salary will be more than the person who was appointed the last year.
Right.
Because as per this year's scale, whatever the government has given, we have given that one. At that time, he has joined only last year, only 1 year is completed. Company has decided to give an overall 10% increment to our employees. Okay, in the 10%, based upon their performance in the 1 year, okay, they are giving 10 out of 10. But the salary will be not matching with the salary which was offered to the new person. And that time, how management can work out?
Gayatri, is your organization governed by any wage board or pay commission or any wage board? Your organization is governed by any wage board?
No, sir, we do follow Karnataka state, what are the, this one given by the scale. Okay, last year there was a, those who are getting the salary appointed, no, they are getting the less salary. The same position with the same qualification, those who are appointed this year, they are getting the more salary than the experienced one. as
Yes.
per these new rules.
Yes.
Time how management can effectively
So it
make
will
it
be,
easy.
yeah, got it, Gayatri. So what happens is, suppose, so there are two kind of organization. I will also answer Ashwini's point in the same question. So
Okay,
what
sir.
happens is, in so there are some organizations which are governed by certain wage boards or pay commissions, and they have to strictly follow them. They are not governed by pay for performance policy, like most of the private sector. Most of the private sector is governed by pay for performance policies, which means higher pay for higher performance, right? Now, in your and that is true for most of the bank, especially the public sector banks and public sector organizations or undertakings. Uh, Gayatri, coming to your question, if there is a possibility that organization may have hired someone at a much higher salary, right? But whenever revisions will happen, they will try to narrow that gap through comparisons. As it cannot be removed in one day, but over a period of time, they will try to narrow this gap as much as possible in the compensation revisions. Is it clear, Gayatri? Gayatri, you're on mute. Okay, any other question from anyone? All right, so if there are no further questions, I would like to thank everyone for joining in today. If any one of you want to know, since Dr. Aparna is also here, who's a founder and director, if you want to know anything about our courses, we can stay back for some time to answer your queries. And for others, if you want to carry on, thank you very much. I would stop recording now, and we'll stay back for some time to take